Maria Rodriguez glanced at her phone for the fifth time in 2 minutes. 6:47 p.m. Her heart sank as she realized she was already 17 minutes late to pick up her daughter from the after-school program. Each minute past 6:30 cost her $5, money she simply didn't have right now. She quickened her pace down the busy downtown sidewalk, her white nursing shoes squeaking slightly against the concrete. The October evening air was crisp, and she pulled her thin cardigan tighter around her shoulders. Her feet ached from standing for 8 straight hours at the nursing home, but there was no time to think about that now. She had exactly 13 minutes to get to Little Angel's daycare before they started charging the dreaded late fees. Maria's mind raced as she walked. $20 in late fees meant no pizza for dinner this Friday, which was something she had promised her 7-year-old daughter Lily all week. It meant choosing between buying milk or bread at the grocery store tomorrow. It meant another sleepless night wondering how she was going to make ends meet on her 2 part-time jobs. The nursing home paid her $12 an hour, and the weekend waitressing job at the local diner brought in maybe another $150 if she was lucky with tips. After rent, utilities, food, and Lily's after-school care, there was never anything left over. Every unexpected expense felt like a mountain she couldn't climb. As she hurried past the row of small businesses and coffee shops that lined Market Street, Maria couldn't help but notice the contrast between her world and the one around her. Well-dressed people sat in the warm glow of restaurant windows, laughing over expensive meals. Business people in perfect suits walked confidently to their cars, probably heading home to their families without worrying about late fees or empty refrigerators. She wasn't bitter about it, not really. Maria had learned long ago that comparing her life to others only brought pain. She focused instead on what she could control, on being the best mother she could be to Lily, on working hard and hoping things would get better someday. Her phone buzzed with a text from the daycare director. "Hi, Maria. Just checking on your ETA. Lily is doing great with her homework." Mrs. Chen was always kind about the late pickups, but Maria knew she couldn't keep testing that patience. Good after-school programs were hard to find, especially ones that didn't cost more than her monthly rent. 52 p.m. Maria picked up her pace even more, her work bag bouncing against her hip. Inside were the leftover sandwiches from the nursing home cafeteria that she was allowed to take home. Tonight's dinner, unless Lily insisted on something else. Her daughter was going through a phase where she only wanted to eat mac and cheese, which Maria couldn't blame her for. When you're 7 years old and your mom is always stressed about money, comfort food probably feels necessary. She was just 3 blocks away from the daycare when she heard a woman scream. Maria's head snapped up to see a small crowd forming outside Cornerstone Coffee, one of the nicer places she'd never been able to afford. People were pointing and looking scared, some backing away from something on the ground. Her nursing training kicked in immediately. Even though she wasn't a full nurse yet, just a certified nursing assistant, she had seen enough medical emergencies to recognize the signs. Someone was in serious trouble. Without thinking, Maria pushed through the small group of onlookers. On the sidewalk lay a man who appeared to be in his early 40s, well-dressed in a navy blue suit and expensive-looking shoes. His face was pale and sweaty, and he was clutching his chest while struggling to breathe. "Did someone call 911?" Maria asked loudly as she dropped to her knees beside the man. "I think so," a young woman with a coffee cup replied nervously. "He just collapsed." 1 minute he was walking, and then Maria placed her fingers on the man's wrist to check his pulse. It was rapid and irregular. His breathing was shallow and labored. All the signs pointed to what she feared most. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked, leaning close to his face. "I'm Maria, and I'm here to help you." The man's eyes fluttered open briefly. They were deep brown and filled with confusion and fear. He tried to speak but couldn't form words. "You're having a heart attack," Maria said firmly but gently. "I need you to try to stay calm. Help is coming." But even as she said it, Maria could see he was getting worse. His lips were starting to turn blue and his breathing was becoming more strained. She looked around desperately. No ambulance sirens yet, and this man didn't have time to wait. "Does anyone know CPR?" She called out to the crowd. When no one responded, Maria knew what she had to do. She had learned CPR as part of her nursing assistant training and had practiced it dozens of times on training dummies, but she had never had to use it on a real person in a real emergency. Her hands trembled slightly as she positioned them on the man's chest. one over the other, fingers interlaced. She could feel the expensive fabric of his suit under her palms, so different from the worn uniforms and casual clothes she was used to touching in her work. "Sir, I'm going to start chest compressions now," she said. Not sure if he could hear her, but knowing that sometimes people could understand even when they couldn't respond. Maria began the rhythm she had practiced so many times. Push hard, push fast, let the chest come back up completely. Count to 30. She could feel his ribs under her hands, could feel the force needed to compress his heart enough to keep blood flowing to his brain. "Come on," she whispered after the first set of compressions. "Stay with me." She tilted his head back slightly and lifted his chin to open his airway, then covered his mouth with hers and gave 2 rescue breaths. His chest rose and fell with her efforts. Back to compressions. Push hard, push fast. Her arms were already starting to ache, but she couldn't stop. In the distance, she could finally hear sirens getting closer. "Where's the ambulance?" someone in the crowd asked. "They're coming," Maria replied without stopping her work. Sweat was forming on her forehead despite the cool evening air. "Can someone please make sure they know exactly where we are?" A man in a business suit pulled out his phone and started giving detailed directions to the 911 operator. Maria continued the cycle. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Her training had taught her that brain damage could start within just a few minutes without oxygen, and every second mattered. "You're doing great," she told the unconscious man, though she wasn't sure why. Maybe it was because he looked like someone's father, someone's husband. Maybe it was because no one should have to face something this scary alone. After what felt like hours but was probably only 3 or 4 minutes, the paramedics arrived. Maria had never been so relieved to hear the sound of heavy equipment and professional voices. "What's the situation?" the lead paramedic asked as he knelt down beside Maria. "Middle-aged male, sudden collapse, symptoms consistent with heart attack," Maria replied, not stopping her compressions. "I've been doing CPR for about 4 minutes. "Good work," the paramedic said. "We'll take over now." Maria moved back to give them space, her hands shaking from the adrenaline and exertion. She watched as they attached monitors and started an IV, their movements quick and efficient. "Ma'am, are you family?" one of the paramedics asked her. "No, I just happened to be walking by," Maria replied. "I'm a nursing assistant." As they loaded the man onto a stretcher, Maria suddenly remembered why she had been hurrying in the first place. She grabbed her purse from where she had dropped it on the sidewalk and checked her phone. It was 8 p.m. The late fees were definitely going to apply now, but as she watched the ambulance drive away, its lights flashing and sirens wailing, Maria felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Pride. She had possibly saved someone's life tonight. Whatever financial stress was waiting for her, whatever struggles tomorrow would bring, she had done something that mattered. She gathered her things and started walking quickly toward the daycare, already planning how to explain to Lily why they were late and why pizza night might have to wait until next week. 3 weeks had passed since Daniel Thompson's life changed forever on that downtown sidewalk. He sat in his spacious corner office on the 32nd floor, staring out at the city below, but his mind wasn't on the quarterly reports scattered across his mahogany desk. Instead, he was thinking about a pair of gentle hands that had brought him back from the edge of death. The doctors had been clear about how close he'd come. Another 2 minutes without CPR and he might not have made it. But someone had been there. Someone who knew exactly what to do. A woman with kind eyes and steady hands who had disappeared before he could even thank her. Daniel picked up the folder his private investigator had delivered that morning. Inside were grainy security camera photos from businesses near the coffee shop, but none showed a clear image of his rescuer. The best they had was a blurry shot of a woman in scrubs walking quickly away from the scene. Even the coffee shop's cameras hadn't captured her face clearly. She was like an angel, he had told the investigator. Medium height, dark hair pulled back, wearing medical scrubs. She knew CPR perfectly, so she must work in healthcare somewhere. But in a city with dozens of hospitals, nursing homes, and clinics, finding one woman based on such a vague description seemed impossible. The investigator had visited every medical facility within a 10-mile radius, but no one recognized the description or admitted to having an employee who had saved someone's life that evening. Daniel rubbed his chest absently, where a small scar from his emergency surgery served as a daily reminder of how precious life really was. Before the heart attack, he had been consumed with work, often staying at the office until midnight, eating takeout at his desk, and forgetting to return calls from friends and family. Now everything felt different. Meanwhile, across town, Maria was discovering that life had a cruel way of piling on problems when you were already struggling. She stood in her small apartment kitchen, staring at the repair estimate for her 10-year-old Honda Civic. $850. The transmission was completely shot. "Mom, are you okay?" Lily asked from the kitchen table, where she was working on her math homework. "I'm fine, sweetheart," Maria replied, quickly folding the paper and putting it in the junk drawer with all the other bills she couldn't afford to pay. "How's your homework coming along?" "Good, but I need new colored pencils for my science project. Mrs. Anderson said we have to make a poster about the solar system, and mine are all broken." Maria's heart sank. Colored pencils seemed like such a small thing, but when you had $12 in your checking account and 3 days until payday, even small things felt enormous. The car repair meant she'd had to quit her weekend waitressing job at the diner across town. Without reliable transportation, she couldn't commit to shifts that might leave her stranded. "We'll figure something out, baby," Maria said, kissing the top of Lily's head. "Maybe we can borrow some from your friend Rebecca." But Maria knew Rebecca's family was struggling too. Half the kids in Lily's class seemed to be in the same situation. Parents working multiple jobs just to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. That night, after Lily was asleep, Maria sat at her laptop searching job websites. She needed something close enough to take the bus to, something that would work around Lily's school schedule, and something that paid more than minimum wage. It felt like looking for a unicorn. Then she saw it. Temporary medical assistant position, downtown health clinic. Flexible hours, immediate start, experience with patient care preferred. The pay was $15 an hour, $3 more than her nursing home job, and it was only 2 bus stops from Lily's school. Maria applied immediately, attaching her resume and a cover letter that emphasized her nursing assistant certification and 2 years of experience. She went to sleep that night praying for a miracle, unaware that she was about to become part of someone else's. The next morning, her phone rang while she was getting Lily ready for school. "Is this Maria Rodriguez?" the voice asked. "Yes, this is Maria. This is Janet from Downtown Health Clinic. We received your application yesterday and we'd like to schedule an interview. Would you be available this afternoon at 2 o'clock? Maria's heart leaped. "Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much." The interview went better than she had dared to hope. Janet, the office manager, was a warm woman in her 50s who seemed impressed by Maria's experience and dedication. "We serve a lot of patients from the community," Janet explained as she showed Maria around the small but well-equipped clinic. "Many of them don't have insurance, so we operate on a sliding scale basis. It's rewarding work, but it can be challenging too." "I understand," Maria replied. "I grew up in this neighborhood. I know what it's like to need health care but worry about the cost." Janet smiled. "I think you'll fit in perfectly here. Can you start Monday?" As Maria rode the bus home, she felt lighter than she had in weeks. $15 an hour would make a real difference. She might even be able to save up for a used car eventually, maybe something reliable enough to open up more job opportunities. What Maria didn't know was that Downtown Health Clinic was part of a larger network of community healthcare centers, all funded by a foundation established by Thompson Healthcare Group. Daniel Thompson's company had been quietly supporting low-income healthcare access for years, though he rarely visited the individual clinics. But his recent heart attack had changed his perspective on many things, including his desire to see firsthand how his company's community programs were working. His cardiologist had recommended gentle exercise and stress reduction as part of his recovery, so Daniel had decided to start walking more and visiting the foundation's clinics to meet the people his company was helping. On Maria's 3rd day at the clinic, she was updating patient files when Janet mentioned that a man from the foundation would be stopping by for a routine visit. "He's very nice," Janet said. "He likes to check on how we're doing, see if we need anything. His company helps fund our sliding scale program." Maria nodded, barely listening. She was focused on organizing the afternoon appointment schedule and making sure all the patient rooms were ready. When Daniel walked through the clinic doors that afternoon, he was struck by how warm and welcoming the space felt. The walls were painted in soft blues and greens, and there were children's drawings taped up near the reception desk. This was exactly the kind of community health care he had hoped to support. "Mr. Thompson, welcome," Janet said, greeting him with a smile. "Let me introduce you to our newest team member. Maria, this is Daniel Thompson from the Foundation. Maria looked up from the patient chart she was reviewing, and for a moment both she and Daniel felt a strange sense of familiarity. But the lighting was different, and they were both in completely different contexts than that frightening evening 3 weeks ago. Maria saw a kind-looking man in casual clothes, probably in his 40s, with gentle eyes and an easy smile. Daniel saw a dedicated healthcare worker who radiated the same warmth and competence he was hoping to find in the people his foundation supported. "It's nice to meet you," Maria said, shaking his hand. "I just started here this week, but I already love working with the patients." "That's wonderful to hear," Daniel replied. "What brought you to healthcare?" "I've always wanted to help people," Maria answered honestly. "I'm actually hoping to go back to school eventually to become a registered nurse, but for now, this work lets me use my skills while supporting my daughter." Daniel found himself genuinely interested in her story. There was something about her voice, her manner, that made him want to know more. But Janet was already leading him toward the examination rooms to show him the new equipment they had purchased with foundation funds. As he toured the clinic, Daniel kept glancing back at Maria as she worked with patients. She had a way of making everyone feel comfortable, explaining procedures clearly and offering reassurance to nervous children and worried parents. There was something special about her, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. When his visit was over, Daniel found himself hoping he would have a reason to come back soon. Daniel found himself making excuses to visit the downtown health clinic more often than necessary. What started as a weekly check-in somehow became every few days, then almost daily. He told himself it was important to stay closely involved with the Foundation's work, but deep down, he knew the real reason was Maria. There was something about her that drew him in completely. The way she spoke to elderly patients with such patience, explaining their medications slowly and clearly, how she knelt down to talk to children at their eye level, making funny faces to distract them during shots, the gentle way she handled worried parents, offering reassurance without making promises she couldn't keep. Maria had been working at the clinic for 2 weeks when she noticed the pattern. Mr. Thompson from the Foundation seemed to show up right around the time her shift was ending. At first she thought it was coincidence, but by the 4th time, she realized he was timing his visits. "He seems very dedicated to his work," she mentioned to Janet one afternoon as they were closing up. Janet smiled knowingly. "Daniel has always been hands-on with the Foundation, but I've never seen him this interested in day-to-day operations before. I think he's impressed with how well you connect with the patients." Maria felt a warm flutter in her chest at the compliment, though she tried to push the feeling away. Men like Daniel Thompson didn't get involved with women like her. He was clearly educated, successful, probably from a completely different world. She was a single mother working 2 jobs just to keep her head above water. But Daniel made it hard to remember those differences. When he visited, he didn't act like someone important checking up on his investments. He rolled up his sleeves and helped organize supply closets. He sat in the waiting room and chatted with patients about their families and their concerns. He remembered the names of regular patients and asked about their conditions. "How's your daughter doing?" Daniel asked one Thursday afternoon as Maria was updating patient files. Maria looked up, surprised that he remembered she had a child. "She's good, thank you for asking. 7 years old and full of energy. She's working on a science project about the solar system right now." "That sounds exciting. Is she interested in science?" "Very much so. She wants to be an astronaut or a doctor, depending on the day." Maria smiled, thinking about Lily's latest declaration that she was going to be the first person to open a hospital on Mars. Smart girl. She gets that from her mom, I'm sure. Maria felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I don't know about that. I'm just trying to keep up with her questions most of the time." What Maria didn't know was that after their conversation, Daniel had made a phone call to the clinic's supply coordinator. 2 days later, Janet announced that a generous anonymous donor had provided funding for educational materials, including art supplies for any staff members who had children working on school projects. "That's amazing," Maria said when Janet handed her a bag containing colored pencils, markers, poster board, and even a small telescope. "Are you sure this is okay?" "Absolutely. The donor specifically wanted to support the families of our staff members. You work so hard for our patients, it's nice that someone wants to give back to you." Maria felt tears prick her eyes. She couldn't remember the last time someone had done something so thoughtful for her family. That evening, Lily's excitement over the new supplies was worth more than any expensive gift. Meanwhile, Daniel was discovering that his anonymous generosity was becoming addictive. When he overheard Maria telling Janet that her bus route had been canceled, requiring her to take 2 different buses and adding an hour to her commute, he quietly arranged for the clinic to offer a transportation stipend to staff members who relied on public transit. When Maria mentioned that Lily needed a physical for school but they couldn't afford to see a pediatrician, Daniel made sure the clinic started offering free family health care for all employees. Each act of kindness was carefully disguised as policy changes or anonymous donations, but Daniel found himself paying attention to every challenge Maria faced, looking for ways to help without revealing his involvement. "You know," Janet said to Maria one Friday afternoon, "Mr. Thompson always seems to be in a much better mood on days when you're working." Maria laughed. "I'm sure that's just coincidence. He's probably just having good days." But she had noticed something too. Daniel's visits had become the highlight of her work days. He was easy to talk to, genuinely interested in her thoughts about patient care, and he had a way of making her feel like her opinions mattered. When he smiled at her, she felt something she hadn't experienced since before Lily was born. Hope, attraction, the possibility that maybe she was worth someone's attention. "Would you maybe like to grab coffee sometime?" Daniel asked one evening as Maria was gathering her things to leave. "I mean, if you're not too tired after work." "There's a nice place just down the street." Maria hesitated. "I don't know. I have to pick up Lily from after-school care, and then there's dinner and homework, and what about tomorrow? It's Saturday. Maybe we could meet in the morning." The hopeful look in his eyes made her decision for her. "Okay, I'd like that." Saturday morning found them at a small coffee shop called Brew and Bean, just 3 blocks from the clinic. Daniel had arrived early and was nervously checking his phone when Maria walked in, wearing jeans and a soft green sweater that brought out the warmth in her brown eyes. "I ordered you a latte," he said, standing up as she approached the table. "I hope that's okay. I wasn't sure what you liked." "That's perfect, thank you." Maria sat down across from him, still feeling slightly surreal about the whole situation. "I have to confess I don't usually have time for coffee dates." "This feels very grown up." "Coffee dates?" Daniel grinned. "Is that what this is?" Maria blushed. "I just meant, sitting in a coffee shop like people do in movies, without having to watch the clock or worry about being somewhere else in 20 minutes. They talked for 2 hours. Daniel learned about Maria's dreams of becoming a registered nurse, about how she had gotten pregnant young and had to put her education on hold, about the challenges of raising a daughter alone. Maria learned that Daniel had grown up in a working-class family, that his success hadn't come easily, and that his heart attack had made him reevaluate what really mattered in life. "You know what's funny?" Maria said as they prepared to leave. "I feel like I've met you before, but I can't figure out where." Daniel felt his heart skip a beat. "Really, I have the same feeling. Maybe we've just seen each other around the neighborhood." 3 weeks into their coffee shop meetings, Lily entered the picture in the most unexpected way. Maria was running late to meet Daniel because Lily's babysitter had canceled at the last minute. Rather than disappoint him, Maria decided to bring Lily along and explain the situation. "Danny," Lily announced loudly when she saw him, using the nickname she had decided on within 5 minutes of meeting him. "Mom says you work with her at the place where people get better." "That's right," Daniel said, immediately charmed by the precocious 7-year-old with her mother's eyes and an infectious grin. "And I hear you're going to be an astronaut, or a doctor, or maybe both. Did you know that astronauts have to know about medicine in case someone gets sick in space?" "I did not know that." "That's very smart thinking." Lily beamed and launched into a detailed explanation of her Mars hospital plans while Maria watched in amazement. Daniel listened to every word with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions and offering encouragement for Lily's ambitious dreams. Watching Daniel interact with her daughter, Maria felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't just attraction anymore, or appreciation for his kindness. This was something deeper, more dangerous. This was the beginning of love. As they walked to the park after coffee, Lily skipping ahead of them, Daniel reached over and took Maria's hand. "It felt natural, right? Like a piece of a puzzle clicking into place. Is this okay?" he asked softly. "It's perfect," Maria replied, and for the first time in years, she actually meant it. Maria stared at the email on her phone for the third time, still unable to believe what she was reading. Position offer. Full-time registered nurse position. St. Mary's Medical Center. The salary was more than double what she was making at the clinic, with full benefits, paid vacation, and tuition assistance for completing her nursing degree. This has to be a mistake, she whispered to herself, as she sat in the clinic break room during her lunch break. She had applied for this position months ago, before she even got the job at the clinic, and had never heard back. Now, suddenly, they wanted to interview her tomorrow morning. Janet knocked on the break room door. "Maria? There's someone from St. Mary's here to speak with you about a nursing position." Maria's heart pounded as she walked to the front desk, where a woman in a crisp business suit was waiting with a folder in her hands. "Ms. Rodriguez? I'm Linda Chen, Director of Nursing at St. Mary's Medical Center. Do you have a few minutes to discuss an opportunity with us?" 20 minutes later, Maria was sitting in the clinic's small conference room trying to process everything Linda was telling her. Not only did they want to hire her, but they were offering to fast-track her through a nursing program, paying for her education while she worked part-time and maintained her full salary. "This is an incredible opportunity," Linda said, "but I have to ask, why now? I applied for a basic nursing assistant position months ago and never heard anything." Linda smiled. "Sometimes things work out when they're meant to. Your experience at the downtown clinic has given you exactly the kind of community healthcare background we're looking for. Plus, we've heard wonderful things about your work with patients." As Linda left, Maria felt overwhelmed with excitement and confusion. This was everything she had dreamed of, the chance to finally become a real nurse and provide a better life for Lily. But something felt too convenient, too perfect. "That's amazing news," Janet said when Maria told her about the offer. "We'll miss you terribly, but this is exactly the kind of opportunity you deserve." "I haven't accepted yet," Maria replied. "I need to think about it, and I want to talk to Daniel first." Of course, he should be here soon for his usual visit. But when Daniel arrived that afternoon, he seemed different. Nervous, distracted, constantly checking his phone. Maria had planned to share her exciting news, but something in his demeanor made her hesitate. "Is everything okay?" she asked as they walked to their usual coffee shop after her shift. "Actually, there's something I need to tell you," Daniel said, his voice serious. "Something I should have told you weeks ago." Maria felt a chill run down her spine. In her experience, conversations that started this way never ended well. They sat at their usual table, but instead of the easy conversation they normally shared, Daniel seemed to be struggling with his words. "Maria, you know I work with the foundation that funds the clinic," he began carefully. "Yes, of course. What I haven't told you is that I'm not just involved with the foundation. I own the company that created it, Thompson Healthcare Group." Maria blinked, not immediately understanding. "You own a healthcare company?" "I'm the CEO. Thompson Healthcare Group owns 12 hospitals, 37 clinics, and funds community health programs across 3 states. The words hit Maria like a physical blow. CEO, 12 hospitals. She thought about Daniel's casual clothes, his easy manner, the way he had presented himself as just someone who worked with the foundation. "You're rich," she said quietly. "Yes. Very rich. Yes." Maria stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "I need some air." Outside the coffee shop, Maria paced back and forth while Daniel followed, trying to explain. "I know this is a shock, but I want you to understand why I didn't tell you immediately. When you're in my position, you never know if people are interested in you or in your money. I wanted you to know me, the real me, before you knew about the business." "The real you?" Maria's voice was rising. "You've been lying to me for weeks, Daniel. Every time I told you about struggling to pay bills. Every time I worried about Lily's school supplies or the bus fare, you just sat there and listened like you understood, when you could probably buy the entire bus system without thinking twice." "I wasn't lying about who I am," Daniel said desperately. "Everything I've told you about my feelings, about caring for you and Lily, all of that is completely true." Maria laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is that why I suddenly got this perfect job offer? Did you arrange that too?" Daniel's silence was answer enough. "Oh my God," Maria breathed. "The transportation stipend, the educational supplies for staff families, the free health care. That was all you, wasn't it? I wanted to help. You wanted to help, or you felt sorry for me?" Tears were starting to form in Maria's eyes. "Have you just been playing some kind of charity game this whole time? Poor single mother needs rescuing by wealthy businessman? That's not what this is, and you know it, Daniel said firmly. My feelings for you are real. What we have together is real. How can I trust anything you say when you've been lying to me from the beginning? Maria wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? All those times I worried about money in front of you. All those times I couldn't afford something for Lily. And you were just watching like it was some kind of entertainment. Maria, please listen to me. But Maria was already walking away. I need time to think. I can't do this right now. That evening, Daniel sat in his office long after everyone else had gone home, staring at enhanced security footage on his computer screen. His head of security had finally managed to clean up the images from the night of his heart attack. And what he saw made his heart stop all over again. There, clear as day, was Maria. The woman he had fallen in love with was the same woman who had saved his life 7 weeks ago. The angel he had been searching for had been right in front of him the entire time. He reached for his phone to call her, then stopped. How could he explain that not only had he hidden his identity, but that their entire relationship had started because she had saved his life? Would she think he was only interested in her out of gratitude? Would this make everything even more complicated? Meanwhile, Maria was at home, trying to explain to Lily why she was crying while also attempting to process the evening's revelations. Is Danny in trouble? Lily asked, crawling onto the couch next to her mother. No, sweetheart. Danny isn't in trouble. I just found out some things about him that surprised me. Good surprises or bad surprises? Maria thought about that question. Was it really bad that Daniel was successful? Was it bad that he had tried to help her? The rational part of her mind knew that his intentions had been good. But the emotional part of her felt manipulated, deceived, and embarrassed. I'm not sure yet, she answered honestly. The next morning, Maria called Linda Chen and accepted the nursing position at St. Mary's. Whatever else was happening in her personal life, she couldn't turn down this opportunity for her and Lily's future. But as she typed her resignation letter to the clinic, Maria felt like she was closing the door on more than just a job. She was walking away from the first real happiness she had felt in years, and she wasn't sure if that was the right choice or the biggest mistake of her life. 3 days later, Daniel received Maria's resignation letter along with a brief note. Thank you for everything you've done for me and my daughter, but I think it's best if we don't see each other anymore. I hope you understand. He understood, but that didn't make it hurt any less. Daniel had finally found the woman who had saved his life, had fallen in love with her genuinely and completely, and now he had lost her because he had been too afraid to trust her with the truth from the beginning. As he watched her empty desk being cleaned out through the security cameras, Daniel wondered if love was supposed to feel this much like losing everything that mattered. 2 months had passed since Maria walked away from Daniel, and life had settled into a new routine that should have felt like everything she had ever wanted. Her position at St. Mary's Medical Center was challenging and rewarding. Her nursing classes were going well, and for the first time in years, she wasn't constantly worried about money. But something was missing, and that something had everything to do with the man she had forced herself to stop thinking about. Lily had asked about Danny every day for the first month, wondering why he didn't come to coffee anymore, why he didn't ask about her Mars hospital project, why Mom seemed sad whenever his name came up. Eventually, the questions had stopped, but Maria could see the confusion and disappointment in her daughter's eyes. Mom, can we call Danny? Lily asked one evening as they were having dinner. I want to tell him about my science fair project. Sweetheart, we've talked about this. Danny is very busy with his work, but he likes science. He would want to know that I won second place. Maria's heart ached. Lily had won second place in the school science fair with her project about cardiac CPR, inspired by a conversation she'd had with Daniel about how doctors help people with heart problems. The irony wasn't lost on Maria. I'm sure he would be very proud of you, Maria said softly. Why don't you draw him a picture of your project? We can keep it safe for later. Meanwhile, Daniel was discovering that success in business meant very little when you were miserable in every other aspect of your life. He had thrown himself into work with an intensity that worried his assistant and board members. 16-hour days were becoming normal, and he had started avoiding the community health clinics entirely because they reminded him too much of what he had lost. His cardiologist had warned him that stress was the worst thing for his recovery, but Daniel found it impossible to relax. Every quiet moment brought thoughts of Maria's smile, Lily's excited chatter about astronauts, and the feeling of holding Maria's hand as they walked through the park. The security-enhanced photo of Maria performing CPR sat in his desk drawer, a constant reminder of the woman who had saved his life twice, once on a downtown sidewalk, and once by showing him what it felt like to truly care about someone other than himself. On a rainy Thursday afternoon in October, exactly 4 months after the heart attack that had changed everything, Daniel was in a meeting with his hospital administrators when his assistant knocked on the conference room door. "I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Thompson, but there's an emergency call for you. Someone named Maria Rodriguez. She says it's about her daughter." Daniel's blood turned to ice. He excused himself from the meeting and grabbed the phone with shaking hands. "Maria, what's wrong?" "Daniel, I'm sorry to call you, but Lily was in an accident at school." Maria's voice was tight with barely controlled panic. "She fell from the monkey bars and hit her head. They've taken her to St. Mary's emergency room and I didn't know who else to call. You're listed as an emergency contact in my phone from before." "I'm on my way," Daniel said, already grabbing his keys. "Which emergency room?" "The main one on 5th Street. "Daniel, I'm scared." "She's going to be okay, Maria. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Daniel broke several speed limits getting to the hospital. He found Maria in the emergency room waiting area, still wearing her nursing scrubs from work, her face pale with worry. "Any news?" he asked, sitting down beside her without hesitation. "They're doing a CT scan to check for a concussion. The school nurse said she was conscious the whole time, which is good. But she was so scared, Daniel. She kept asking for you. For me?" Maria nodded, tears in her eyes. "She wanted her mom and she wanted Danny. That's what she told the paramedics." Daniel felt his heart break and heal simultaneously. "Can I stay? I mean, if you want me to leave, I understand, but..." "Please stay," Maria whispered. "I know I said we shouldn't see each other anymore, but right now I need someone who cares about her as much as I do." They sat together in silence for 20 minutes until a doctor in green scrubs approached them. "Mrs. Rodriguez? I'm Dr. Martinez. Lily is going to be fine. She has a mild concussion, which means we want to keep her overnight for observation, but there's no sign of serious injury. She's been asking for her mom and someone named Danny. Can we see her?" Maria asked. "Of course. She's in room 108. Lily was sitting up in the hospital bed, looking small but alert, with a large bandage on her forehead. When she saw Daniel walk in behind her mother, her face lit up like Christmas morning. "Danny, you came. I told them you would come." Daniel approached the bed carefully, his throat tight with emotion. "Hey, little astronaut. I heard you had an adventure today. I fell off the monkey bars trying to do what you showed me about upper body strength for space training. But don't worry, I'm okay. The doctor said my brain is fine." Maria looked at Daniel in surprise. "You taught her about upper body strength?" "We talked about astronaut training once," Daniel said quietly. "I may have mentioned that astronauts need to be strong." "Well, next time I'm going to be more careful," Lily announced. "I don't want to worry Mom again." She was crying when the ambulance came. For the next hour, Daniel entertained Lily with stories and jokes while Maria filled out paperwork and spoke with the doctors. Watching him with her daughter, seeing how naturally he stepped into the role of protector and comforter, Maria realized something important. This wasn't obligation or gratitude. This was love. Real, genuine love for both of them. That evening, after Lily had fallen asleep and they were sitting in the hospital cafeteria over coffee, Maria finally said what had been building in her heart all day. "I owe you an apology." "No, you don't," Daniel replied immediately. "I owe you one. I should have been honest from the beginning about who I was. Maybe. But I should have given you a chance to explain instead of just walking away. I was scared, Daniel. Scared that someone like you couldn't really care about someone like me unless it was out of pity." "Maria, look at me," Daniel said, reaching across the table to take her hands. "There is nothing pitiful about you. You're the strongest, most caring, most incredible woman I've ever met. You saved my life, and I don't just mean the CPR. Maria's breath caught. "What do you mean, the CPR?" Daniel pulled out his phone and showed her the enhanced security photo. "This is from the night of my heart attack. I finally figured out who my mystery angel was about 2 months ago." Maria stared at the image, memories flooding back. The man in the expensive suit. The feeling that she knew Daniel from somewhere, the strange coincidences. "That was you," she whispered. "That was me. You saved my life that night, Maria. But what you did after that, showing me what it means to care about someone else's dreams and struggles and happiness, that saved me in a completely different way. So this whole thing started because you were grateful? It started because I was looking for you. But it became something else entirely when I got to know who you really are. My feelings for you have nothing to do with gratitude and everything to do with love. Maria felt tears streaming down her face. I love you too. I've been miserable without you, and so has Lily. Then let's stop being miserable, Daniel said simply. 6 months later, Maria stood in the community center, where she had first learned CPR, watching Daniel address a crowd of parents and teenagers who were there for a free CPR training class. This program exists because someone I love believes that everyone should know how to save a life, he was saying. The Rodriguez Foundation for Community Health Education will provide free CPR training, first aid certification, and emergency medical education to anyone who wants to learn. Lily, now 8 and fully recovered from her playground adventure, raised her hand. Are you going to teach the class, Danny? Actually, Daniel said, smiling at Maria. Your mom is going to be the head instructor. She's the expert. Maria stepped forward wearing her new nursing degree pin that she had earned just 3 weeks earlier. The Foundation's scholarship program had allowed her to complete her education while working and being a mother, and now she was ready to teach others the skills that had brought her and Daniel together. Who knows what CPR stands for? She asked the group. Several hands shot up, including Lily's. It stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation, Lily announced proudly. It's how you save people's hearts when they stop working right. That's exactly right, Maria said, catching Daniel's eye and smiling. Sometimes CPR saves more than just someone's heart. Sometimes it changes everything. After the class, as they walked to the car with Lily skipping ahead of them, Daniel took Maria's hand. Any regrets about letting that scary rich guy back into your life? He asked teasingly. Only one, Maria replied. What's that? I wish I had trusted my heart sooner instead of being afraid of the differences between us. Well, Daniel said, stopping to kiss her gently, we have the rest of our lives to make up for lost time. The rest of our lives, Maria repeated, liking the sound of that more than she had ever thought possible. In the distance, Lily was explaining to another child how her mom had saved her dad's life before they even knew they were going to be a family. Her voice filled with the pride of a daughter who knew her mother was a real-life hero. Sometimes the best love stories begin with saving a stranger's life and end with saving your own heart.